They laughed before she even said a word. A young black woman in a faded yellow dress, standing in a room built for the rich and white, the kind of place where marble floors shine, but hearts don't. One salesman tugged at her hem. Another joked, "Maybe she'll pay with food stamps." The crowd chuckled, safe behind their silence. But what they didn't know was that the woman they mocked didn't come to buy a car. She came to test who still thought her skin decided her worth. And before this day was over, the same men who laughed at her would be begging for her mercy, because sometimes the quietest one in the room is the one who owns it. The doors of Hayes Motors swung open with a metallic sigh, spilling sunlight across the marble floor. Inside, chrome and glass gleamed under perfect lighting. The air smelled of money, polished, perfumed, and far too clean. Imani Clark hesitated for just a second before stepping in, clutching the strap of her worn handbag like armor. Her yellow sundress was faded from too many washes, her shoes scuffed from real sidewalks, not the kind people here ever walked on. But her posture stayed straight, her chin high. She didn't need them to believe she belonged. She knew she did. The laughter started before she even spoke. A pair of salesmen near the counter glanced at her, then at each other. One tall, sharp-jawed, with slicked-back hair, smirked. Kyle. His colleague leaned in and muttered something that made both of them snicker. Their voices weren't quiet. "Can I help you, sweetheart?" Kyle called out, dragging the word like honey over a knife. "Or are you just cooling off in the AC?" His tone drew the attention of a few nearby customers, each one pretending not to stare too hard. Imani's fingers tightened around the strap of her bag, but she smiled politely. "I'm here to look at the new Genesis." Her voice was calm, smooth, the kind that should have ended the conversation, but Kyle's grin only widened. "Oh, really? You know that's not a charity car, right?" He turned toward the other salesman, loud enough for the whole showroom to hear. "Maybe she wants to pay in food stamps." The laughter that followed wasn't just sound, it was judgment. It rolled through the showroom like static, bouncing off the polished hoods of luxury cars. A few people looked away, uneasy, but none said a word. One woman near the coffee bar shook her head, whispering something about embarrassing scenes. The manager's door stayed closed. Imani felt her cheeks heat, humiliation crawling up her neck like fire, but she said nothing. Her silence was sharp enough to cut glass. Kyle wasn't done. "You sure you're in the right place, sweetheart?" he asked, circling one of the cars like a game show host. "These aren't on clearance." He tugged lightly at the hem of her dress as he passed by, grinning at the gasps it drew. "Nice fabric, though. You sew it yourself?" Her hand flew to her side, pulling her dress back down. She blinked fast, forcing down tears. Not here, not in front of them. Somewhere deep inside, her father's voice echoed, the voice that had carried her through college and every job that told her not yet. "Never let them see you small, Imani." The insult still hung in the air. Food stamp. It was the kind of word people like Kyle used as a weapon, meant to strip away dignity piece by piece. But instead of breaking her, it built something inside her, a slow rising heat that felt like control. She turned toward the car she'd asked about, her fingers tracing the smooth curve of its hood. "It's beautiful," she said softly. Kyle laughed again, loud and sharp. "Beautiful, sure, but she's out of your league, darling." He winked at a couple watching nearby. "You should try the used section next door. Maybe they'll run a 2-for-1 special." The couple didn't laugh this time. The man looked uncomfortable. The woman bit her lip. No one spoke. Imani's heart pounded. Her bag slipped from her shoulder and hit the floor with a soft thud. A photo fluttered out. A little girl with bright eyes and 2 messy braids smiling in front of a school bus. Harper, her niece. Gone now? Imani bent quickly to pick it up, but Kyle got there first. He stepped on it, heel pressing the paper flat against the tile. The sound was small, but it felt deafening. "Oops," he said. "Guess I'll need to charge you for the floor, too." The room fell silent. Even the music playing over the speakers seemed to pause. Imani stayed crouched for a moment, staring at his shoe pinning her only photo of Harper. Her throat tightened until it hurt to breathe. She whispered, "Please." Just one word. Kyle looked down at her, smirking. Please, what? You want your picture back, or you want a discount? His laughter sliced through the air again. When she stood, her face was calm, too calm. She met his eyes, steady and cold. You don't need to worry about what I can afford, she said quietly. But maybe you should start worrying about how you treat people. Her voice didn't rise, but it carried. Every word rang clear, bouncing off the glass walls. A man near the desk coughed. Someone whispered. For a moment, Kyle looked unsure, caught off guard by her steadiness. But arrogance is stubborn. He grinned again, forcing the sound of his own laughter back into the silence. Relax, sweetheart. No harm meant. We just like to have fun here. Yeah, she said, still holding his gaze. So do I. She knelt down and slid the photo free from under his shoe. A faint shoe print smudged Harper's smile. Ayman brushed it gently with her thumb, eyes softening for a moment, then slipped it back into her bag. When she looked up, the room was watching her again, but something had shifted. The laughter felt thinner, uncertain. Her silence had weight now. She walked toward the car at the center of the floor, the one under the brightest lights. Her footsteps clicked against the marble, like a countdown. No one stopped her. Kyle followed at a distance, trying to keep his smirk alive. Imani ran her hand across the hood, eyes narrowing slightly, almost as if she were inspecting it. This one, she said. This one's perfect. Kyle scoffed. Perfect for what? Her answer came soft, almost to herself. For what comes next. And for the first time since she'd entered that showroom, it wasn't her who looked out of place. It was him. The silence that followed, Imani's last words, stretched long enough of everyone to feel it. Kyle's grin faltered, unsure whether she was bluffing or just crazy. But Imani's calm wasn't performance. It was control, carved out of pain. The laughter that had once filled the room had thinned to whispers, and every whisper had her name in it. She stood beside the car, under the bright lights, and for a moment, the reflection on the polished hood showed two versions of her, the woman they mocked and the woman she was about to become. She adjusted her bag slowly, the same one they had called cheap, and when she reached inside, the air seemed to still again. Customers watched from behind coffee cups, pretending to check their phones, but too curious to look away. Even the soft music playing overhead couldn't cut the tension. She didn't pull out money or a wallet. Instead, she retrieved the small, crumpled photograph from before, Harper's smiling face, now smudged with the faint imprint of Kyle's shoe. She stared at it for a long moment. You ever lose someone who believed in you more than you believed in yourself? She asked quietly. Not to him, not to anyone in particular. Kyle rolled his eyes. Lady, I'm trying to work here. But her voice carried on, gentle yet unshakable. She used to tell me I'd own something shiny one day, something that couldn't be taken away. Her thumb brushed the photo once more before sliding it carefully back into her bag. The emotion in her eyes wasn't weakness. It was the kind of pain that has already survived fire. Then she turned back toward Kyle. You said people like me pay with food stamps, she said evenly. But I wonder how people like you pay for the pieces of their soul they give away. The words hit harder than he expected. He opened his mouth, but no sound came out. A murmur rippled through the customers, some shifting uncomfortably, others nodding slightly as if silently agreeing. The other salesman, nervous now, tried to break the tension with a forced laugh. All right, sweetheart, maybe we got off on the wrong foot. Why don't you come over to my desk and we'll see what kind of car someone like you can qualify for. His words were meant to sound helpful, but they bled with condescension. Imani didn't move. Her eyes stayed locked on him. Someone like me, she repeated softly. Her tone was so calm that it scared him more than shouting ever could. She looked around the showroom then, at every polished hood, at every face pretending not to see, at every man who had laughed. It's funny, she said, how fast a room full of people can decide who deserves respect and who doesn't. She gestured toward the car. You don't know me, you don't know what I've fought through to walk through those doors. The emotion cracked through her composure for the first time, just slightly. You don't know what it feels like to watch someone crush the last piece of your family under their shoe and call it a joke. Her words hung in the air, raw and trembling. Somewhere near the back, the janitor paused with his mop. Even the front desk clerk looked up from his screen. The second salesman shifted his weight, muttering under his breath, "She's making a scene." "No," Imani said, hearing him clearly. "You made the scene. I'm just standing in it." The line landed heavy, a quiet explosion that forced even the onlookers to look inward. Kyle, red-faced now, barked out, "All right, that's enough. You don't come in here playing the victim and talking down to us. You think just because you walk in here with an attitude—" His voice cracked mid-sentence. He stopped. Something about her expression told him he'd already gone too far. Imani didn't flinch. She just took one step closer, so close that he could see his reflection in her eyes. "You really think I came here for your approval?" she asked. Her voice was soft, but sharp. "I came here to see how much rot hides under all this polish." She glanced around again, letting her gaze settle on the dealership's name, Hayes Motors, embossed in gold on the wall. "Mr. Hayes built this place to sell dreams," she said, almost to herself. "But I guess dreams only look right when they come in the color you expect." Her words cut through the air, slicing every fragile silence open. Somewhere near the glass doors, the wind outside shifted, rattling them faintly, the only sound in the entire building. Imani turned her focus back to the car, her hand resting gently on its mirror-smooth surface. "My niece used to draw cars like this," she said quietly. "Said one day she'd see me driving one. I promised her I would." Her voice broke for just a heartbeat before she steadied it again. "I guess today's as good a day as any to keep that promise." Kyle forced a laugh, desperate now to regain control. "You? Buy this car?" he scoffed. "Lady, the tires on this thing cost more than your rent." Imani's lips curved, not in anger, but in something almost like pity. "You still think this is about money?" she said softly. "It never was." She stepped back from the car, reached into her bag again, and drew out a sleek black folder, one that gleamed faintly under the fluorescent light. The laughter died instantly. Kyle's smirk froze. The room shifted again, the air growing tighter, heavier. She placed the folder on the car's hood, fingers resting on its cover. "You said people like me don't belong here," she murmured. "So let's see how that works out for you." The camera of the moment, if there had been one, would have caught every heartbeat of suspense. The photo, the humiliation, the calm before the storm, everything in that room was about to flip. And as she opened that folder, you could almost feel the story turning, the sound of laughter collapsing under its own cruelty. When Imani flipped open the folder, the room shifted like someone had sucked the air out of it. The silver letters on the first page glimmered beneath the showroom lights. Official, embossed, undeniable. Kyle's smirk fell into silence. The sound of a car door clicking shut somewhere in the back startled him. Everyone's eyes followed Imani's hand as she turned the first page, the paper edges crisp against her calm fingers. "This," she said softly, "is what power looks like when you stop asking for permission to have it." The dealership's logo sat at the top of the document. Beneath it was the corporate name, Harrington Automotive Holding. And under that, in clean, bold ink, her name, Imani Clark, Regional Executive Partner. She didn't raise her voice, but every word carried. "I'm not here to buy a car," she said. "I'm here to audit the people who sell them." The crowd murmured. A man near the window muttered "no way," while a woman whispered, "She's serious." Mr. Hayes burst from his office, his face pale, his tie slightly askew. "Miss Clark," he stammered, "I had no idea you'd be—" But she held up her hand. "Don't apologize to me," she said, eyes fixed on Kyle. "Apologize to the floor staff you let talk to customers like that. Apologize to the people you pretend to serve." Her tone wasn't loud, but it hit harder than any shout. Kyle's mouth worked soundlessly. The color had drained from his face. "Wait, what is this?" He tried to laugh, though his voice shook. This some kind of prank? He reached for the folder, but she pulled it back before his hand touched it. A prank, she repeated quietly. No, Kyle, what you did back there, tugging my dress, stepping on my niece's photo, laughing about food stamps. That was the joke. And today, she said, sliding the folder closed with a click, is when it stops being funny. Mr. Hayes took a hesitant step forward. Miss Clark, please, we didn't. She cut him off again, her voice steady. You hired them. You trained them. And you let them believe they could treat people like me as background noise. She looked around at the crowd customers, receptionists, mechanics peering through the service bay window. That stops now. Kyle tried one last time to recover. Look, I didn't mean it like that, okay? You just came in here looking like... He caught himself too late. Imani tilted her head slightly. Looking like what? She asked, her words sharp as broken glass. He swallowed hard, eyes darting toward the door, as if escape might undo what he'd said. Like I didn't belong, she finished for him. That's the problem. You think belonging has a color. The sentence hung in the air like a verdict. Then she turned toward Mr. Hayes again, calm as ever. He's finished. So is the one beside him, effective immediately. Hayes nodded slowly, defeated, his gaze dropping to the floor. Understood, he whispered. Kyle's mouth fell open. You can't just... I can, she said, and I just did. The room was quiet, except for the faint hum of the overhead lights. Imani bent down and picked up the black folder, tucking it back into her bag. As she did, her fingers brushed the corner of Harper's photograph. She took it out again, smoothing the creases carefully. The shoe marks still faintly stained the smiling face, but somehow that made it more powerful. She looked at it for a long moment. She wanted to see the world fairer than the one I grew up in, she murmured. Guess I still have work to do. The crowd stood motionless, unsure whether to clap or stay silent. The janitor set down his mop, his eyes shining. A woman whispered, "Good for her." Mani turned toward the glass doors, sunlight spilling across the marble in streaks of gold. She paused before stepping out, looking back just once at the men who had laughed. You wanted me to feel small, she said softly, but all you did was show everyone else how big I really am. Then she walked out, the echo of her heels fading behind her. Outside, the sunlight was bright and warm, and for the first time that day, she let herself breathe. The city noise felt alive again, the honk of traffic, the chatter of people, the rush of wind. She opened her bag one last time and looked down at Harper's photo. You were right, she whispered. Something shiny, something they can't take. She smiled, not at the cars behind her, but at the horizon ahead, where glass towers caught the light like promises waiting to be kept. Inside the dealership, the laughter had died for good. Even the music that resumed seemed quieter, more careful, as if the building itself had learned shame. Mr. Hayes ordered the salesmen to pack their things. Kyle muttered under his breath, but no one listened. The customers returned to their business, though their glances at one another carried something new: understanding, maybe respect. Outside, Imani crossed the street toward a black sedan parked beneath the shade of an oak tree. She unlocked it with a small click, the keys gleaming in the sun. Her reflection looked back at her through the windshield, not the humiliated woman they had mocked, but the woman who owned her story, her place, and her power. She got in, started the engine, and for the first time in years, smiled without forcing it. The tires rolled smoothly onto the road, leaving Hayes Motors behind in the mirror, a fading building filled with lessons it never wanted to learn. In the distance, the city stretched ahead like a promise, and the voice of her father seemed to drift on the wind, gentle and proud. Never let them strip your dignity. She hadn't. She never would. And for once, the only sound she paid with was the quiet click of her keys. If this story made your heart race or your hands clench, then don't just scroll past. Hit like to stand against the kind of hate that still hides behind fake smiles. Share this story so more people remember that dignity can't be bought or broken. And subscribe for more true stories that turn silence into strength. Now tell me in the comments, if you were standing in Imani's place, surrounded by that laughter, would you have stayed silent or spoken your truth?